Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. This is actually a pretty good video we got here. Some of those other videos I make, no bueno, but we got a good one. Ivan calls out Rachel, basically calls her a red flag, a roller coaster of emotions, and then I'm going to get into what Dear Shandy said. I love their take. And I'm going to share what a contestant on the season said on their Instagram. So people are saying a lot of things. Now, you might say, oh, this feels like a big pile-on Rachel. I understand when all these different recap channels start sharing their opinions of what we think we're watching, it feels like a big pile-on. I'll just say this. None of us have been in this situation, or most of us haven't been in this situation, and we don't know how we'd react to the pressures, our egos, when it comes to the men choosing between her and Gabby. I mean, it really is a wild, fascinating science experiment, or psychology experiment, and unfortunately for Rachel, she's not coming out looking good in it, but let's give her some grace, let's give her some love. She's young, this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, she's probably never going to have the option of doing it again, you know, unless you're Claire, and then the whole thing, you know, it can let's just be kind as we dive into these waters. Follow me on Instagram at DNeals. I got a bunch of stand-up shows coming up. You can go check those out. I'm also on Patreon at patreon.com/Dave Neal. Private membership content. I've got a live stream happening this morning, I think around 10:15, 10:20 a.m. So come check that out if you want to be a part of the behind-the-scenes live stream. So in this video, I'm going to share what Dear Shandy thinks. I'm going to share what Ethan had to say right here about how Rachel would cause him to need a drink. I'm also going to share some of your comments. And but first, this is a video I'm going to release today only on the Patreon. This will come out later on Tasha's channel. But if you want to catch my Mexico wedding tasting, here's just the last few seconds of it. Here's just a nice drone shot that I took there. If you want to check that out, and I share with you the venue that we went to visit our wedding tasting, and all of the, you know, if you like linen shirt Dave, a behind the scenes look. Very different from the content we make here. Our wedding's coming up very soon. So if you want to check that out, that's where it is. Patreon.com/Dave Neal. Private bonus content, big iguanas, and all that jazz. All right, let's get into what Ivan had to say about Rachel.
For me, dare I say, is it a red flag? All these ups, like Rachel is roller coaster ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. Sweet girl, all that stuff. That's almost a red flag at this point. Like, these guys, they have to be like, when Jesse comes up to them and is like, hey, the group date is canceled because some stuff happened and Rachel wanted to cancel it. In my mind, I'm like, all right, this is 1, 2, 3, 4 too many times. On me, I would have pulled a Logan and switched teams when she pulled that.
You would have also been sent home. But yes.
You would have been sent home. Now look at the eyes here. Hold on.
You would have had to walk the plank. Talking about.
Look, okay, you might disagree with Ivan's opinion here. I'm assuming some people will, but I find it refreshing to hear what he thinks. I think so many people are afraid to call out things because they're afraid of the backlash, but this is what he thinks. Now, the audience of The Bachelor is primarily women. I have always said this. It's way easier to empathize with people that look like you. So it's easier to empathize with people that look like you, which means gender, race, profession, socioeconomic level. It's just easier if I'm a carpenter to empathize with a carpenter if he gets a nail shot through his hand. I don't know. If you've been canceled, it's easier to empathize with someone else who's been canceled and things like that. So a lot of the women, I believe, you know what I like to say, all women hate being generalized, but I think women will understand Rachel's tears and understand the stress that she's under, whereas Ivan's seeing it from the engineer that he is, which is in a more analytical, like standoffish type of way.
Talking about my Swiss teams.
So there they are, Ivan and Demar, and Demar. So look at Demar. Look at Demar's look at his eyes here when Ivan calls out Rachel.
Dare I say, is it a red flag? All these ups, like Rachel is roller coaster ups and downs, ups and downs.
He's going, oh boy. He's like, oh boy, you're going to call her crazy. Be careful. He doesn't say crazy. He doesn't say the C word. But so then he posts red flag. And of course, hey, they have a new podcast, the Vibe Pod. I got to say, production quality is pretty good on this podcast. Credit where it's due. They're doing a good job. Heads up to them. And then Emily says, you have to understand that the producers are aggravating and encouraging every doubt, though, right? As in are in the moments with producers who have the opportunity to calm her down and talk her out of these reactions, but they don't. Well, okay, I understand. I understand that thought. But we need to hold that same amount of space for the people that are villains on the show. We do. I'm sorry. if we're going to say, oh, the producers aren't feeding them enough and they're sleep deprived and they're under a lot of stress, well, that's where a lot of anger comes out. You ever been hangry before? You literally, the brain releases what? The cortisol, Clayton was explaining it the other day, the stress hormone. We're all stressed out on the show, that is. We're all stressed out. No one's sleeping. Everyone's like, love, how am I going to come off? And then once you think, and then so the villain, look, some people channel sadness. Some people channel anger. Here's a little bit of some advice from old man Dave over here. If you're ever dealing with someone who's angry, assume that's sadness, and then maybe you'll be more compassionate and not meet their anger with your anger, and then we can de-escalate. I don't know, just a thought. So anyway, I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of people that don't love the opinion. Julia says, this is perfect coming from a walking red flag. And some other comments, I'm sorry, but imagine being in this position. She's probably exhausted and sleep deprived, and she's had to deal with rejection over and over again on national TV. That would make anyone insecure. Also, people are allowed to be emotional. It's not a red flag. Not every guy needs to like that, but no one is. Okay, I think the idea is Ivan's probably like other people that have been in relationships that are exhausting, like with energy vampires, that no matter what you do, it's always wrong, and they take offense to everything. And we're not saying that's Rachel here, but clearly Ivan feels like that is a possibility. In a regular setting, it's a red flag, but she's been out in the role of the Bachelorette. At times, she should have had 30 men vying for her attention. Yeah, look, because Gabby's involved, it's bringing out a whole new thing. She doesn't get to be the only queen, the only princess. That's just what it is here. Now, here's what Ethan has to say. He has a TikTok. When Crew says it's time for bed after a long day of filming. So there it is. All right, going to bed. Me and the boys heading straight to the bar for our nightly tequila. All right, very harmless. And then in the comments, someone said, I mean, Rachel this season would cause you to need a drink. And then he goes, eyes, laugh. Which, very fine comment. Very fine comment. And then let's go to what is one of the richest talents in all of the Bachelor land, Dear Shandy. Shandy stands for Charlene and Andy. Should I start a podcast called Dear Tada? And it's just Tasha and Dave. So here they are, Charlene and Andy. And let me tell you something. You never want to get in the middle of a lady and her notebook like this, because she's got notes, okay?
Okay, so Gabby admits he's the only overlap. She really liked him too, but when she heard about his connection with Rachel, she completely backed off. And she says she wants to check with Rachel and she wants to put her friends first. And Andy, you said Rachel's going to passive-aggressively cock block.
Yeah.
And I don't think you were wrong about this. She dealt with it, like, I think face to face. She was like, but I want you to do what you want to do. But there was some passive aggressive insinuation.
Yeah, there should have been subtitles.
Translation.
Stay away from my
By the way, the more you listen to this, Andy sounds like a dead ringer for Tom Hanks. And now that I mentioned it, you probably can't. Andy, that was Woody. Okay, but anyway, also Charlene here. Boy, I tell you what, I wonder, Andy, let me know when Charlene when you guys get in a fight, does Charlene bring out the old notebook? Is she like, anyway, here, so on Thursday, she just has her notebook, Okay. On Thursday, you put the Tupperware on the bottom level of the dishwasher. And we both know that the bottom level, you cannot put plastics down there because it will melt the plastics. And now we need to go call Rubbermaid and get a whole new setting of plastics. And he's like, wow, I don't know. I couldn't do that.
I want you to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
But translation.
Yeah. Well, I might kill you. But.
So Gabby visits Rachel now. Rachel immediately says about Logan, how many roses was he going to take?
Again, that's another song. How many roses was he going to take?
That was a little more jaunty than I would have expected. But.
Well, it's like, it's a sad song with a happy tone.
Those can be more powerful than just sad ballads.
Always more. Who wants to hear like Mommy, I'm so sorry for myself. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear a sad song that's happy.
It's true.
Beach Boys.
The best.
Beatles too, right?
Yep.
The best.
Sad songs that are always happy.
Yeah. They really go.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking like desperately sad.
That's the season. Desperately sad.
Okay.
Go listen to Pet Sounds. See what I mean?
So she was basically insinuating he just wanted to see how far he could get. And she tells Gabby she didn't go on her date. And Gabby is floored by this. Like her jaw is on the floor.
Yeah.
And Rachel says it's all, quote, another guy just dumped me for another Bachelorette.
Can I be honest with you here? And this is
please be honest,
a little
Andy.
mean.
Yeah.
Be mean. A little mean.
No, go for it.
Be mean.
I think in real life, like in the show, I think Gabby is slowly not becoming friends with Rachel anymore.
So you think it's
Gabby's
around
like-
this point where there's this fork in the road where she's like, oh, we probably won't be besties for life, but I'm still going to be good to you.
So look, Gabby's a sweetheart.
Yeah,
she's gonna be nice.
I know.
She's
She
not,
can't
she's
be
not
mean
gonna
to
talk behind her
anyone.
back. Or
Yeah.
Well, they have a point because Gabby was like, "Oh, Logan dumped you," and then when Logan told Gabby this, he was like, "I kind of broke up with Rachel." Gabby goes, "How did Rachel take it?" Like Gabby was like, "Was this a bull in a china shop kind of thing? Was she throwing stuff? Did she, you know?"
But I will say I saw the glimmer in her eye just turn off.
It
like-
dimmed. It went.
She's like, "Oh, you didn't do the group day? Okay, I'm probably not going to call you every week."
I mean, do you blame her?
Whoa!
That's the thing is, I feel like Gabby's been so accommodating. I said several weeks ago, it has this big sister vibe, like putting her sister first before.
I say this: squeaky wheel gets the grease. Gabby's been very accommodating of Rachel. Rachel's been the squeaky wheel. She needed the grease. This episode brought to you by WD-40.
Her own needs. Case in point, Logan. And then when it backfires on Rachel, Gabby has to be the one to pick her back up.
And the funny thing is if you had to choose between the two of them, who would be like a project? You'd think Gabby, but she had a rough go.
No, I wouldn't.
Yes.
Right? She had, I mean, her mother and her whole upbringing is rough. You'd be like, if anyone's going to pick anyone up, it's Rachel picking up Gabby.
Yeah, no.
But I think Gabby's had it. I think she's like, enough. Come on.
Well, you could
let's just have
argue
fun here.
maybe it's because she had to pick herself up that she is just.
She's so strong.
She's strong. She's got self-worth. She's
done the work. She knows where her blind spots are. Gabby is.
I don't want to say more mature.
She is. She's more enlightened and as far as understanding her reactions. We've talked about this all the time. This isn't a knock on Rachel. They've got several years between them. A lot can happen in that time. And it doesn't mean an older person's more mature spiritually. Age doesn't always have anything to do with it, but it can be an indicator, right? And we saw this on Clayton's season because Clayton essentially dumped them the exact same way. So this is good psychological experiment. He dumped them together at the exact same way. And we saw Gabby go like, "Oh, that was really horrible, yeah. And then Gabby moved on and she realized he wasn't for me, whatever. And Rachel, I hate to use the word scorned, but she channeled the anger. Anger is an easier emotion it's an easier surface emotion.
But I don't know what else to say.
You could say.
People are afraid to call this out. You can see Charlene here. She's like afraid to be like, it just feels that way. And people, oh, the edit might be a certain way. Yeah, absolutely. The Bachelor will use what's given to them and they'll inflame it. Rachel's not crying nonstop. I'm sure they just caught her in some of her worst moments. But there was more of those moments with Rachel than there were with Gabby. I don't think the show's trying to protect Gabby over Rachel. I think they're just they're just like a chef in the kitchen being like, all right, well, we got some of this. Let's boil it up.
It just feels like she is more of a complete adult.
Yeah.
Maybe a little less sheltered. I don't know. There's something about Rachel that it comes off a little self-absorbed. Like she's that friend who hangs out with her other friends and will talk about herself all night and maybe not realize that she hasn't asked any of her friends any questions.
But she just has friends who are the type of people who allow people to talk about themselves a lot without interrupting.
The center of attention. So that's what they say. Listen, I don't know what else to say other than spot on takes, great audio, great video, great humans. Look, this is what it's all about. Do you know Charlene is going to be the host of Bachelor in Paradise Canada, which we'll be covering this fall. We're going to have her hopefully on the channel to talk about that. Huge opportunity for her within the Bachelor world. Look, cream rises to the top, folks. Sorry for the vegans out there. Cream rises to the top. And no offense to the Bachelor Nation podcast, the clickbaits, the talking it out of those types of things where they just pop open their laptop and just vomit onto the screen for a couple minutes. Helicopters are going by. Dogs are barking in the background. Impeccable audio, impeccable video, great takes, love them. Go run, don't walk over to their page if you are not a part of the Dear Shandy community. Let me know what you guys think about these takes here. I have a feeling there might be some people, having some different opinions here, but that's what the show's all about. We all watch the same show and we all feel a different way about it. We project, folks. Do work on yourself. That's all we can talk about. All right, I'll be on Patreon at 10 a.m. Patreon.com/Dave Neal. See you guys in a little bit. Bye.
Does he have like this swag?
Girl, she don't know.